Welcome back, Rankers. Lots happening over the last 10 days. The Search Marketing Expo was in Sydney, and that happened the day after the one in Toronto, which I reported on last week. Lots happened at Sydney. I didn't make it. Sorry about that. We're off to New Zealand next week for the Marketing Now conference. And if you want to go and have a look at that, if you are in New Zealand, I believe there are still seats available. It's at marketingnow.co.nz. Some great speakers, Chris Brogan, David Mearman Scott. Yours truly will be running a search marketing workshop on day 2. So if you're in New Zealand and you can get to that, get down there. It'll be great. Okay, first of all today, Google has announced that they're becoming more local. And you may have, when you do a search in Google and you type in a suburb name or a town name, you'll get the Google Maps come up. Like, if we go Plumber, we'll go Plumber, Melbourne. And usually you'll get a map up here. Now the reason I'm always a little amazed when I see this is we're only seeing one entry in Google Maps for Plumber, Melbourne. So if you are a plumber and you service somewhere in the Melbourne CBD or on the outskirts of the Melbourne CBD, you should have a Google Maps entry, because at the moment there's only one person there or one company there, MGL Plumbing. So well done, MGL. So now that's how Google Maps always has worked in the past. Now, if we just type in plumber without a town or a suburb or anything like that, or as we call them, a geographic descriptor, you will see that halfway down the page here we've got Google Maps, and you'll start to see this creep in more and more now. And it's telling me also that these are plumbers near Carrum Downs. Now it's worked out where I am based on my IP address. Now that doesn't always work, because in Australia you'll have a lot of ISPs that will assign IP addresses, say out of Perth. And there's one telco I used to be a customer of who was based in Perth, and Google always thought I was in Perth, and in fact I'm sitting in Melbourne. But most of the time it will work quite well. Now what this means to you is that you've got to get your Google Map entry done, number one. But if you have a look up here, image results for plumber. So it's actually returning image results that it thinks matches the term plumber. And this little Mr. Clever Trousers here has actually got, Cons Plumbing, has actually got a graphic that he has made sure that Google's picking up, so he turns up in Google image searches for the word plumber, which is pretty clever. So if you do have any images on your site that relate to your keywords specifically that you think people might be looking for, make sure that when you set up your Google sitemap, that you tell Google that you want to be included in results from image search as well, and you'll get your image turning up here, and then you'll get your map turning up. But look above here. People who say that SEO is dead, it's not dead, because we've got 3 entries above image results and map results. So this is one of the reasons why you have to be in that top 3. That's one of the reasons we're always saying to the guys, look, top 5 is good, top 3 is better. Number 1 is what we should be aiming for with all our clients. So, there's a whole bunch of things that you have to get on top of here with the new Google local search becoming more and more prevalent in the search results now. The only problem that I have with Google Maps at the moment is that it is still subject to spammers. And the algorithm really, I don't think, is as good as Google's normal search algorithm, because it's having trouble weeding out a whole range of spamming techniques. We're not seeing it so much here in this particular search, but certainly in highly competitive areas like SEO, there's a lot of spam going on. Also in other highly competitive industries, there's a lot of manipulation of the Google Map results. Having said that, you should still get your Google Maps entry done, because Google will always improve their algorithms, as we know. So That's it really for search today. I just want to quickly add today about the government's what we call the clean feed filter, or what they're calling the clean feed filter. In case you've missed it, you haven't been watching the show. But the Australian government is trying to implement a filter to censor the Australian internet, basically, is what they're trying to do. Yesterday, a former Google employee called Mike Knapp, an Australian, put up a video basically showing you how to hack Australian web censorship. So it's not hard, by the way, if you think this is hard. And this is one of the main problems I have with governments and the internet. The internet works because governments don't get involved with it, or they can't get involved with it. They can't control it. The way the internet was designed was so that no individual computer could be more important than another computer. It was designed as a computer network to withstand a nuclear attack. Therefore, if Washington got taken out, the internet would keep working. That meant that you couldn't have a central computer that anyone could take out in a nuclear attack, because this was invented back in the late 1960s. And because of that, any computer that gets plugged in is no more important or less important than any other computer that gets plugged in. And as we've seen from previous examples of when organisations or industry tries to restrict what they want people to use or see or do, the crowd just moves elsewhere if they don't like what you're offering. And we saw that with the music industry back in the late 90s. A young bloke called Sean Fanning invented a piece of software, which a lot of the older viewers would probably be aware of, called Napster. And that basically turned a multi-billion-dollar industry and that was 80 years old, turned it on its head overnight. And it's really only in the last 18 months that the music industry has come to terms with the fact that people want to download music. They don't necessarily want to go and buy a CD. And now we're starting to see the music industry embrace that, and finally the numbers are up for digital music sales. The same will happen with the government if they try to censor the internet. What will happen is that you will get a separate internet. You'll get everybody moving from here over to here. And whilst the government's filtering this little thing over here, everybody else will be over here doing what they want and without government interference. So if you're interested in this debate at all, go and have a look at that that video post, because it's not hard to avoid an internet filter, which is why it's such a waste of money and it's such a furphy to be talking about protecting our children, because you can't. The only way you can protect your kids is by making sure that they're well educated in good internet use and become good digital citizens. That's why we had the national broadband announcement yesterday. I'm not going to get into that today, but we're spending all this money on the digital economy, we're told, but I believe we still haven't got computers in every school, as was promised at the last election. And we've spent millions on the blacklist, which actually does nothing. People think if something's blacklisted that you can't get to it. That's just not true. As we've seen from the example of WikiLeaks, if you type WikiLeaks into Google, in Australia we've got, let's have a look here. In Australia we've got over 474,000 pages just in the Australian domain name space talking about WikiLeaks, in case you missed it. WikiLeaks is the whistleblower site that published the Australian blacklist. So that means there's probably a couple of 100,000 pages in the Australian domain name space which will enable your kids to get to the Australian blacklist. The blacklist, if you click on a link, you go straight to the site. So the blacklist, which was started back in 1999, does absolutely nothing, except if the site's in Australia, it can be issued a takedown notice. And we're not talking necessarily illegal content here, we're just talking content that might be R-rated even, which you can go and see at local cinema or on pay TV or wherever else. You can't see it on the internet. Well, you can, but the government's put it on the blacklist, so you better not go and have a look at it, all right? And you certainly better not link to it. And these 400,000 pages that are linking to the WikiLeaks site, they all have to be fined $11,000 a day if they are linking to the WikiLeaks blacklist, because they're linking to a blacklist. You don't know that they're actually linking to a blacklist though, because the blacklist is secret. You with me? So let's go and fine all these sites $11,000 a day, and that's just for one word. So, my point here is that you would need billions and billions and billions of dollars to make this filter work effectively, and quite frankly, I don't want my tax dollars spent on that sort of folly. And it's not just this government, it was the previous government, and it will be the next government, because governments don't like the internet because people can say whatever they want. And I'm a big believer in free speech and in free information. And information is power. Governments aren't that keen on you having that sort of power. So if you don't like the idea of censoring the internet in Australia, please speak to your local member of Parliament and tell them that you're not happy with the government's current policy. And that's it for this week's show. If you're in New Zealand, I will see you next week, and we'll be bringing you a show from there. Thanks very much. See you next week. Bye.